Never gonna do a draw my life video because, to be honest, I personally don't think my life is nearly as dramatic or interesting as some of the other draw my lives that I've seen. I also have an older brother who I've always felt competitive with my whole life. He was always better than me in everything. He would beat me in challenges, competitions, video games, and of course he was naturally gifted in judo. 5th grade, I moved schools for middle school. 6th grade was specifically a terrible year for me. Not only did I lose all my friends because it was a new school, but because it was a charter school, we all had to take tests to see where we would be placed, I guess, and for some reason I got placed with the older kids. At the time I thought this was a good thing because I thought older kids would think I'm cool because I skipped a grade. However, it was pretty much the opposite. So this is the part of the story that most of you don't know about because I never really addressed it publicly, but I know a lot of you watching this can relate. So I got bullied. A lot. You know, nothing really crazy, just your typical getting pushed down to the ground, being made fun of for no reason. And yes, I remember every single one of them, including the worst of them. Again, not gonna use a real name, but we'll call him Richard. Because as you know, another name for Richard is Dick. See, Dick was such a Richard to me that I'd actually make excuses to my mom why I couldn't go to school, or why I needed to change schools. So I was hating life at the time and wondering why someone so mean could be so popular by picking on me. It even got to the point where I had some darker thoughts at the time that I think most, if not all, teenagers go through at some point in their lives. Or perhaps it was just puberty messing with my head, I don't know. However, I was able to stick it out, and I actually found a way to end the bullying on my own terms. I noticed that the reason Dick was bullying me was to make people laugh, so I figured that if I could make them laugh and become the funny guy, they would stop treating me like I was less than them. Being depressed and feeling sorry for yourself is easy. I challenge you to change that today. Happiness is a choice. Choose to be happy. Choose to better your life because...
Gentlemen of YouTube Boogie. I grew up in the southwestern part of Virginia in a small town called St. Paul. My mother was a teacher, but she was always very sad, and not only was she sad, but she was pretty angry about her life and everything that had happened up to then. My brother went off to college, which left me alone at the age of 9 with my crazy, angry, depressed family, which really kind of sucked. So my dad was almost always at work, and that left me alone with my mother, who was always sad all the time, and sometimes she'd get really angry and she'd scream at me, and that happened almost every day, and sometimes she'd hit me, and that happened every day too. My brother used to tell me that my dad was a pretty laid-back guy and he was kind of fun, but by the time I came around, all Dad liked to do was drink, and he liked to drink Pabst Blue Ribbon, and he drank like 20 or 30 of them a day, and that's pretty much all he did. Pretty much was always sick, and because I didn't get much physical activity, I also got really fat. Eventually, all that drinking and smoking and coal mining caught up to my dad. Something went wrong in his brain. They called it alcoholic seizures, though it pretty much was just like a stroke, and it left him like a stroke victim. He couldn't work anymore, so it was up to me and my mother to take care of him, and all he did was pretty much sit in his recliner and stare at the wall. He couldn't really communicate. He couldn't hear because he was deaf from working in the mines, and he couldn't talk because of his stutter, and that's really, really sad. Then my poor mother, who was already pretty sad and already pretty angry, got even sadder and got even angrier, and the bad stuff she did started happening more often, and the good stuff she did kind of disappeared. And as you can imagine, all this made me really, really sad. I didn't really have any friends at school either, which kind of sucked. The kids at school would call me fat or ugly or gross, and life just kind of went on like that for years. I was always pretty sad, and people were always kind of mean to me, until eventually I was fatter than I'd ever been. But that was just the beginning of health problems for my family, because my dad passed. He died of cancer. And that made my mom really, really sad and really angry. And then we got some more bad news. She fell and broke her leg, and that leg would never heal. So she was unable to work. And if you thought she was crazy before, that pushed her over the edge. And all this bad luck, and all this poor health, and all this misfortune made me sadder and angrier than I had ever been. But the saddest thing to ever happen to me was about to happen. I got a phone call from the hospital, and they told me that my mother was very, very sick. I came to visit her, and while I was there, she died. And this made me sadder than I had ever been, and I really didn't know what to do with myself. So that Christmas, I made plans to kill myself. But I didn't. I didn't because of my friend Adam. I didn't because of YouTube. I didn't because of you. Because I met this redheaded girl who saw my videos, and she was really sad too because she had just buried her best friend, and she had just buried her brother. And we started talking, and it was awesome. We were really interested in each other. I owe you my life.
I really wanted to do something special for the 1,000 subscriber milestone, or not 1,000 subscriber, 1,000 video milestone. And my father brought me some bad news. He put a piece of paper in front of me and just let me read it without saying anything. And I was a pretty smart kid, so I understood every word that it said, all the techno mumbo jumbo, but the main thing is that in basically big bold letters it said cancer, and the really bad kind of cancer. So that was a really tough time for me because I kind of lost sight of what I was doing. Everything seemed kind of clear to me before, but right now everything was kind of just getting away from me. And 1 year later, we were all home for summer, and my dad was getting pretty bad with cancer, and he wasn't himself anymore. But one morning, we were all woken up by my stepmom, Dee, screaming, and we went downstairs to see that my dad was dying. And the last words that he said to me were, "I love you so much." And I held my dad's hand as he died.
My name is 1995, I was born in the Queen's Medical Centre Hospital in Nottingham, and 2 days later, my airway became blocked. I couldn't breathe. I turned totally blue and was carried straight to emergency care. To cut a long story short, yeah, I survived, but that was scary looking back. Moving forward a little bit, I was always creative. From the age of 2, I was drawing elephants, baking cakes, and making dinosaurs out of Play-Doh and matchsticks. I used to love dinosaurs. My level of concentration was such that when I started working on something, everything else became secondary, to the point where I would sometimes even forget to eat meals. My dad picked up on this, and he started training me to play chess. I was slow to start with, but very soon I started to enjoy the game, and I got good fast, started beating my dad, and not too long later, I would be playing for the England chess team. I handled junior school with no problems at all. Over there it was all about being nice and having a decent head on your shoulders. I used to be that guy who answered all the questions in class and came into school 20 minutes early. Yep, I was that guy. But as soon as we hit high school, things started to go a bit wrong. All of a sudden it was cool to be dumb, and chess became an activity for nerds. At the same time, my acne started to kick off all over my face. I started growing and became quite tall, and with the copious amount of gymming I wasn't doing at the age of 12, I became lanky. In not too much time, I'd gone from that talented little genius to that twig that plays chess. Things had really changed, and I started to feel just a little bit alone. Yes, I had friends, but this loneliness was almost inside of me. And it was at this point that I felt my confidence leaving me. From that guy who used to ride into class on the vehicle of self-satisfaction, I became a bit of a library dweller. Now don't get me wrong, I wasn't depressed. I've always had parents that love me more than I can even understand. I've always had a group of close friends who are there for me when I need them. I've always had my brother and sister who can somehow make me laugh even in the darkest times. It's just, I was a shell of a human. I used to walk around with my head down. I used to barely make eye contact with people. I never said much, and I could be in a room without really being there. And then came one of the worst days of my life. In what must have been my greatest moment of stupidity, I told a classmate that I used to put lemon in my hair. Seems pretty normal. In fact, it's actually quite beneficial for the scalp. The rest of my school didn't seem to agree. For about 1 whole month afterwards, I couldn't get away from it. Wherever I went, I could hear people shouting the names of citrus fruits after me. I could hear them bellowing with laughter. And yeah, too long after March 2011, I got my first smartphone, the ZTE Blade, and I was honestly blown away by this thing. I couldn't believe the technology I was holding in the palm of my hand. So I started researching. I wanted to understand everything there was to know about smartphones. I started getting into modding, hacking and customizing, and on the 22nd of April 2011, aged 15, I uploaded my first ever YouTube video, how to optimize the ZTE Blade. Now I don't even remember the specific moment when I decided to upload it onto YouTube. I felt this much satisfaction in anything I'd ever done in my life previously. So I made the decision to. In 2 weeks, ideas started to flow. I was buzzing mentally and gaining subs faster than ever. And not too long after hitting 35,000 subscribers, something life-changing happened. One of my videos went viral. And by viral, I don't mean 100,000 views, not even 1 million views. 15 million views and counting. Within about a week, my channel had doubled in size, and I was honestly just in awe. I went in overdrive. I began uploading better and better content, faster than I'd ever done before, and I felt on top of the world. Through trial and error, I started to learn how to optimize content, make thumbnails that stood out, and take Mr. Who's the Boss to the next level. It wasn't long before we hit 100,000 subscribers, and every goal and expectation I had for myself at this time had just been obliterated. This channel has come so far since the day that I decided to pick up a camera. YouTube is no longer a hobby, it is a part of me. It has shaped me, made me stronger, more confident and more determined than ever. And it's all thanks to you. The lovers, the haters, the likers, the commenters. You have made me the person I am today. And I just wanted to say thank you. It has taught me that the only way to achieve something is to persevere, to keep trying, learning, and then trying some more. And however unrealistic your goal may seem, you can get there. There'll be 1,000 people who will tell you can't, who will tell you to get real. Had I listened to even one of those, Mr. Who's the Boss probably wouldn't exist. Everyone has lows and highs, and the most important thing is how you deal with them. Be modest in your success, and determined in your failure. We are going to get to 1 million subscribers, and for everyone who thinks we can't do it, I'll see you on the other side.